Hello and welcome to the Future Skills Show, brought to you by Truro Penwith College and the Future Skills Institute. My name is Russell Cosway and I'm hosting a discussion with industry professionals and educators and some students on the emerging skills in businesses and what's needed from education. We hope to dispel some myths, define some challenges ahead and do some crystal ball gazing. In this episode we're talking about the health industry. Now, we're not going to be only talking about doctors and nurses. There's a lot more variety of education related to working in the health industry than just PhDs or joining the Nursing and Midwifery Council. I said it right, look. To help me find the vital signs of skills in health, I have in the theatre, sorry, 2 puns there, Dr. Julie Gripton, Principal in the Cornwall and Arsacilly Health and Care Academy, for the Cornwall Partnership NHS Foundation Trust. Well done for having the longest job title. Helen Lewis, Assistant Director of Workforce Transformation, Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust. Hello, Helen. And Tamsin Irvin, the Curriculum Lead for Nursing and Health at Truro Penwith College.
Hello.
Welcome to the Future Skills Show. Now, you were all threw a curveball with me just before we started the show and told me that actually 2 of you are registered nurses and one's a podiatrist. So how, bearing in mind the job titles that I just read out, how did you get from a patient-facing, client-facing role into the roles you're in now? Helen, do you fancy having a crack first?
I think it's about it's career development. It's the opportunity for a long-term career in the NHS or in health and social care that are linked. And I think having a foundation qualification such as a registered nurse or a nursing associate or any of the other healthcare professionals, it takes you on a journey that can take you to all sorts of different places. So effectively, I work within an HR setting, and my job is now around developing people. But my nursing core knowledge is really, really important because, knowing that means that I can help people grow, I can help them develop, I can see which direction they might want to go with their careers. So having that clinical background is really important. And I also go back to it because I enjoy it.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And what about you, Julie?
I think like Helen, you never really know quite what direction your career is going to go in. And the essential values of healthcare are really, really important. But the NHS has so many different opportunities from research and education and that clinical development that you just have that opportunity to evolve, but you've always still got that core element of the patient care at the focus and developing people to give the best care possible and develop their skills.
Yeah, so that core underlying patient-facing kind of serves you in delivering a better workforce in your case, and the academy.
I've done clinical work, I've managed services and developed a whole range of sort of AHP professionals, allied health professions, and moved into the education and training. If you'd asked me to predict, I don't think I would have ever told you that's what I was going to end up doing.
No, but the opportunity was there for you to experience that, and you took it. Yeah. Tamsin, you jumped out of the health industry and then jumped into education. But serving the health industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get to that?
Well, I think mine really was from when I was very young. I could never decide whether I wanted to be a nurse or a teacher. But luckily for me, I decided to do my nursing first. And a bit like the others, because I hold those, really strong values about the importance of patient care, and then was lucky enough really to have the opportunity to go and do my teacher training, do a bit of work at Truro College, which at first was literally 1 day a week while I was still nursing, but then found, I really like this. I really feel that it's so important that because of our own values and our own experiences, that we try and instill those in our learners and inspire kind of the future of the profession. So that's kind of where our passion lies, I think, in my team, is trying to really develop a workforce that shares the same values and passion that we do. Because I'm lucky in my team, we're all nurses, so we're all occupationally, experienced. So I think hopefully that helps to instill that in our future workforce.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I said I wasn't going to talk doctors and nurses, and the first thing I'd done is talk doctors and nurses, but hey, that's the way it goes. I'm interested to know at what point you made the decision to go into nursing. At what age did you think, that was for me? Because some of the conversations we've been having is about is about how early people can make the decision of what they want as a career. What was it for you?
I mean, for me, it was quite traditional, really, in terms of I did my GCSEs. I went to college and did a BTEC, actually, in health and social care, and then literally went straight to university to do my nursing degree. So it was quite traditional for me.
Okay.
But for me, it was then when I reached 40, and I was kind of a bit like, actually, what else can I do with this? Maybe this is a good opportunity now to think about going into education. And that's, luckily for me, that's how it happened. And obviously that was, 11, 12 years ago now. So, so I've been really lucky in my career to be able to have my nursing career, but also now a career in education. So, but again, like the others have said, it just shows that once you do your training, that's just the start of your journey, and where you take that is then up to you and where you want to go. But there's so many opportunities. Doesn't mean that you're going to be working on a ward forever. There's just so many opportunities that you can take your career.
Okay. Julie, how was it for you?
I think I knew I always wanted to work in a health professional area. Unlike my colleagues, I knew I didn't want to be a nurse, but wasn't actually sure what I wanted to do, and looked at radiography, I looked at physiotherapy and podiatry, and podiatry was the one that appealed to me. It had huge flexibility. There's lots of podiatrists that work in private practice as well as in the NHS.
Yeah.
And you're working with all age groups around medical conditions, around physical function and those elements. What I didn't expect was to then sort of go on and do coaching qualifications and PhD and that sort of thing. So once your journey starts, it just evolves, and it's exploring all of those opportunities.
Yeah, and okay, now Helen.
So I can only ever remember wanting to be a nurse.
Okay.
So, I think I thought about teaching like Tamsin for a little while, but I always wanted to be a nurse. And I think that sometimes when I look back, I wish in my teenage years I'd looked more widely at the roles that are available within healthcare, because there's such a breadth. And I was single-minded, and I didn't consider anything else. But I think there are other roles like Julie's, like occupational therapists, operating department practitioners, loads of healthcare opportunities that you can work in a different way.
Okay, well can we drill into those? You mentioned operating department
Practitioners.
Explain. You do it. ODP, I can work with. I forget what it means. What does it mean?
So an operating department practitioner is a healthcare professional who works alongside the anaesthetist, which is the person who helps you while you have an anaesthetic, you go to sleep for an operation. So they are supported by an operating department practitioner who helps them. So it's a really important role. They help recover you from your surgery as well. So really not that well known about, but a really interesting role and a lot of opportunities to work within a theatre team.
Are there any other hidden roles in your organisation? One of the interesting things I've had in discussing with you is just this vast array, but what would you say were the hidden gems within the health industry?
I think one of the areas that doesn't get talked about very often are the clinical physiologists, the respiratory and the cardiac, and those types of roles, which are absolutely essential. And then on the other side of it, in mental health, lots of people know about psychologists and psychiatrists, but you've got all of the talking therapies professions there as well. We've got social workers that work in mental health and closely with health across all different areas, let alone all of the non-clinical roles, which are absolutely essential. The whole organisation is dependent on those non-clinical roles.
How does education serve such a diverse estate of opportunity and an activity?
So yeah, it's quite challenging really, because as we said, there are such a wide range and such a diverse, availability of different courses really. But where we came from really was trying to develop courses that were going to serve the local workforce, and certainly the ODP was an area that was a real shortfall. I mean, the nursing as well, but ODP is the nearest place that you could do any training was Birmingham, wasn't it? And the trust were actually using Birmingham University. Which obviously wasn't terribly helpful, with the logistics of, how far away it is and everything. So that was why we developed and got approval from the HCPC to offer the ODP course. So sorry, that's the Healthcare Professionals Council. So that's anybody that's not a nurse or a midwife is registered under the HCPC.
Okay, thank you.
So we're lucky we've employed an ODP that is programme leads that. We've got another ODP that works with us but also works with the trust as well. So we've got a really lovely joint working partnership with all of our courses actually, haven't we? That have literally been developed to serve the needs of the local population. So I feel very privileged to have been part of that.
Okay, and is the local nature, bringing that local and keeping our local skills, is that what we need to do?
I think one of our real challenges is when we've got careers, and pharmacy is an absolute classic one.
Okay.
Again, the closest you can train is Bath. But once people have left the county,
yes,
that attraction to draw them back is really hard.
Yeah.
And we've got huge pharmacy shortages and projected shortfalls with ageing population of the workforce. So enabling people to stay local who don't want to leave at all, being able to enable people to stay, enjoy everything that Cornwall's got, but also train and get a profession and a career is absolutely essential.
So how do you achieve that? How do you keep people local? How do you give them pathways in that perhaps people might not know of at this point in time?
I think there's a lot of flexibility,
Yeah.
and the new routes for training, so using apprentices as well as the traditional apply to a university, there are different routes to enable people to come in, which gives flexibility for local people. I think we also enable people to go away and come back to finish off bits and pieces. So if they've been away to do their pre-registration pharmacy training, there's opportunity to do a year before they start work in the trust. So we're looking at every opportunity to bring people back if they've gone away to train, and recognise that actually Cornwall is a really good place to develop your career further. So that's part of us seeing, how do we make Cornwall attractive for professional people to come and work. Julie mentioned the research and development that's going on. There's lots of research going on here that is actually having an impact on health across the country. So, during the COVID pandemic, one of the vaccines was being trialled locally. So, those are things that possibly people don't know, that there are opportunities for them to get involved in and to pursue a career locally.
And that's great. We've mentioned a lot of titles. Sorry, there is a magnitude to the health industry that you don't appreciate until you reeled off probably 30 different roles already. But there's even more diversity in the workforce that you have to develop, isn't it? It's not all the medical-facing, medically trained individuals. What other opportunities do you have to fill?
I think there's probably well over 300 different types of professions and careers within the NHS, and then there's, again, within social care, another huge number. So there's multitudes of opportunities. And I think the beauty of that is if you've got someone who's really interested in science, there's roles for them. If you've got somebody who's really interested in mathematics, there's roles for them. If you're interested in social science and those sorts of elements, there's roles. There's HR roles, there's administration roles. Every different element, every subject you can think of, art therapy, drama therapy, You're touching on every different area of subjects that people would enjoy that can be a really rewarding career. I've forgotten music therapy as well there. So.
And you want to add? It seems like,
How long have you got?
Oh, well, we've got another 40 minutes, so we're okay. It lists them off. I think the shows we've had going before, we've had construction, so presumably you get involved with the lease maintenance of the properties and other stuff. You've got presumably manufacturing, engineering, manufacturing. You've mentioned the creation of or testing of things down here, but presumably there's kind of engineering involved or new equipment, such like.
Well, who looks after all of the equipment?
Yeah.
Who calibrates it,
Exactly.
maintains it, if it breaks down, comes and repairs it. So there's a whole group of medical engineers there that, again, are professions that people just don't hear about, but absolutely critical.
Yeah.
You can't do the x-rays or the diagnostics without that equipment.
Okay, so we've got a massive subject on our hands. An hour is not enough. We probably need another 100 people around the table as well. So we're going to have to focus on what we can at this point in time. How are you? We've obviously been quite through a difficult couple of years in education, especially those perhaps entering their GCSEs and then exiting in the 2 years with perhaps less than what they hoped for. How can we help those along into the health service? Because I know you've got good pathways on that front.
Yeah, we have. I mean, unfortunately, I suppose in a way, you do need a basic level of maths and English to access, any of the courses really that we've talked about. And that's government driven, not just necessarily a college driven thing. That is a government driven thing. But we do help people obviously with any retakes that they want to do, but we also accept people with level 2 functional skills. So if you haven't quite managed to get your GCSE maths and English, then we can assist people and they can do level 2 functional skills instead in literacy and numeracy. So that gives them a really good grounding then to be able to get that grounding of education. We also have access courses, so like an equivalent to an access to HE, so an equivalent to like a level 3 qualification for people that maybe have missed that opportunity when they were younger as well. So to access some of the higher level courses like, the nursing associate or the registered nurse degree apprenticeships, for example, you do need a level 3 qualification. But again, there's a way of doing that. You can come on and do an access course that again will ground you then and give you the qualification that you need. So I think it's about getting the message out there that yes, these qualifications are important, but it's not the be all and end all if you don't get them when you're 16. There are opportunities and there's things that we can all do to help people to still be able to access the jobs that they want in health.
Yeah. So
I think for us, personal values, that caring area, it's the person, the ability to be able to talk, to be able to connect with people that's really essential. You can come in and you can be a support worker. We can do the maths and English working with Truro College, working with adult education, with online offers. So there's a multitude of different ways of doing that. We've then got apprenticeships to get a level 2 or a level 3 qualification, which can then progress. And some people don't want to progress. They'll get to a certain level and that's what they want to do. And there's others that once they've got the maths and English and they've got that level 3 qualification are progressing to the nursing associate and the degree nurse. I had an amazing conversation with a lady working as a mental health nurse the other day, and she started in the trust with no health qualifications and did her support worker qualifications, then moved on to be an assistant practitioner, and then progressed to the nursing qualification, is now on a band 6 and looking for her next promotion as a team leader and that sort of thing. So her career is no different than somebody who's gone to university to do the nursing
Interesting.
degree. It's just taken a bit longer, but she's been able to stay local and be able to grow her career, and wouldn't have thought initially that would have been an option for her.
And presumably, accepting current circumstances, debt-free from regards to student loans, earned whilst learning, sort of thing. So okay. Apprenticeships in your area, is that big?
Oh yeah, very much so. So we have probably a couple of hundred people on apprentice programmes at the trust at the moment.
Okay.
And I think at our most we've had 25 different programmes, and that could be things like plumbing, IT, finance, accounting, as well as the healthcare, the nursing and the healthcare support worker roles. But I think one of the things that's really important to say that builds from what Julie's just said is it's never too late. So people sometimes think they've missed the boat because they were 18, 19, 20 and life didn't maybe go in the way that they thought it would be, or they did something different, or they didn't like what they did. It's never too late, and there are roles that you can come into, you can test it out, see how it feels, and then progress your career from there. So there's just so many opportunities and so many different ways in that there's no one path only, and if you've missed it, you've missed it. That doesn't happen.
And certainly in our learners, haven't we, at the moment, we've literally got some of them in their 20s, but we've got students in their 50s, and we've got students that have had complete career changes. I'm just thinking of like one that was a chef, one that was a plasterer. We've had people with different careers but have taken a turn, haven't they? Realised that actually their passions lie somewhere else, but they can still do it. Like Helen said, it's never too late. And I think that's one of the myths as well. If you think about an apprenticeship, you think about somebody that's just leaving school.
Yeah.
But, as I said, we've got students in their 50s that are now doing their nursing apprenticeship. So I just think that's amazing, that it's there and there's an opportunity for you in your 50s to have a career change. So
health's not, the traditional view of health would be very clinical, very hospitalised, probably not wrong, hospital-centric, maybe a better phrase, and not necessarily thinking of plumbers, electricians. Those are all key industries. So you can be involved in health, which is probably something that could be close to your heart, and not just serving perhaps a big business or construction industry or something like that, something that's very much serving the people. That's brilliant. One thing I wanted to get on to, or just discuss briefly, was the term of digital health. Slight change from where we're at, but really it's... I just wanted to get a feel around the table of what you feel digital health is from your perspective, and I think it might vary. Do you want to kick
So
off?
I have two thoughts with regards to digital health. So I would think about our individual digital health, which would be you and I, how confident, how happy are we with the use of digital technology to enhance our lives? And I would say for some of us it's better than others. So your digital health is probably much better than mine. However, from a healthcare professional perspective, we would think about digital technology as a means of delivering healthcare in a new way. So if you have diabetes, you can be using your smartphone to monitor your blood sugar levels.
Yes.
Or we can also be using virtual means, so we can have contact with patients through virtual methods. So we're not actually having to come in face to face. We can monitor people's conditions virtually, so we're not needing them to come away from home, so we can save on travel, and we can also work in a different way. And actually that whole concept of working virtually within our healthcare professional roles means that we don't necessarily have to live where we're working. So there are those differences that are coming through as well, so different channels of working. So there's two things for digital health for me. So there is our personal digital health, which has an impact on how we can engage with services, but from healthcare professionals, how we use digital to deliver care.
Okay, what's your perception, Julie?
Very similar in that difference between the personal and the professional areas. And when you look at the challenges that we've got in terms of the ageing population, the number of people that have got multiple health conditions that they're managing more long term, we have to be able to keep them out of hospital. We have to be able to manage those conditions, and utilising technology is one of those. Be able to monitor different conditions and have them reported from home. Be able to do tests more close to the contact to the patient. So real differences in how we're using that technology and the advancements that we can make. So we need people that are comfortable with using technology, but we also need those innovators to be able to see those opportunities of where we can use technology more within healthcare. And although it's not digital, the COVID testing, the little rapid test strips that you had, an absolute example of how that technology has been taken from one thing and applied and rolled out accessible to everybody. And it changed everyone's lives quite considerably. So that science and technology are really, really important to our future.
Yeah, and obviously there's innovations to be had even in that simple line of testing, but where you could go with that in the future is amazing. Monkeypox next, but apparently. So Tamsin, how does the education serve that kind of diversity of in educating people in how to use digital health, but then also those innovating and developing solutions which are digital to enhance our lives in the way we are.
Absolutely, and it is something that we actually build into our curriculum now. It's not sort of something that we have to do, but it's something that we've actually added in, and that's again because I've just been talking about the diverse age range. Not all of us were brought up with computers, or not we're taught. We've kind of been self-taught, haven't we, of how to use computers. So we actually do teach digital skills now within the curriculum, because we've just got such a wide range of abilities, really. And again, even with submitting work and everything, it's all online, it's all digital. So we have to kind of make sure that everyone's comfortable with a certain level of digital skills. So it's definitely something we need to bring in and that we have brought in to the curriculum. I agree with both, what the other ladies have been saying here, but I think it's an amazing opportunity that we have with using, digital technology. But I suppose I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I do always worry that we have to just not be replacing people, and that contact that I think we all realised through COVID was so important. I think we have to be so careful that we're not replacing that with just digital. And that we have to give people choice, because even now trying to get a GP's appointment, you're being asked to upload photos of what's wrong with you, or what do you know what I mean? For some people that's really, really difficult. So I think we need to be careful that we don't get swept away too much with it, that we still have choice for people, but absolutely have the choice. But don't.
Technology might be able to monitor the health, but the healthcare can't take the care.
It's that intuition, and we'll all know that, what we mean by that as healthcare professionals, where you get a feeling that something's just not right with somebody, and I just don't think you're not going to get that with a computer. So I do just feel we need just not to be sort of, going too far down that road where we're losing the intuition and the kind of the human compassion.
It's interesting because obviously I'm a technologist at heart, have been for 35 years.
And there's absolutely such a place for it. There absolutely is.
I've got a continuous glucose monitor, and I must admit, over the rather analogue finger pricking event, it's an amazing amount of data.
Of course it is.
But to others, it could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I just need to know if I need to take a shot of insulin or not. And I kind of get it, but for me, it's actually quite important.
Of course.
So is that balance? I get that. And how do you go on?
I was going to say, it's also that if you think of how our generations evolve, we've got older people now who've never used a computer, never used a smartphone, who've got no sort of technology skills whatsoever. But we've got a whole new generation that have just grown up with technology, and it's totally part of their lives. It's not going to be long before our whole population is users of technology. So it is an area where there will be lots of developments.
funnily enough, COVID did a service to a certain extent. That sounds very full of the pain that the health service went through for it, but we have had to become more familiar with
Absolutely.
Zoom and Teams calls. We've had to become more familiar with self-service to the doctors, not going to the doctor so much, telephone conversations. Has that changed how you educate people? Because you talked about distance work, or you can work anywhere. You can do these virtual sessions. Is that changing how you educate and engage and employ people?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think when we're educating students, particularly who are heading down the healthcare professional route, like the nurse or the doctor, we're looking at using those virtual clinics and things. So we need to teach people, and we need to enable people to have experience of having a consultation with a person via a screen, because it's different. Because as Tamsin was saying, you lose that face-to-face contact. You lose those cues that might tell you this is a need, and how am I going to replace that, because we're talking via a screen or talking via a telephone. So there is education that's needed to support that, but it does change the way that we work, because we can work more virtually. So I mentioned before about perhaps not necessarily having to live near where you work. So I think being able to work virtually means that travel might be different. We might be able to work. You might be able to work abroad and still look at scans. So it is changing, but I think we're still in those very early stages. I think the pandemic sped up our approaches to digital technology within healthcare, but I agree with Tamsin, we've also got to maintain the care and make sure that we're getting it right for people.
Yeah, so it sped it up. Did it speed it up too fast and we need to just kind of catch up with it? Or is it good in a good place now?
I think it is good. I don't think it sped it up too fast. I think we needed to embrace some of the technology that was there and move forward with it. But we've got to help people be able to utilise it, and that's both the healthcare professionals and the users of the service.
Okay, so we're accepting that the workforce is going to become more technical. We know that they're going to, in the future, we're going to see the customer become more technical, but we also know that we've got an ageing population, so we're going to end up with a lot more people to look after. Okay, so good picture of health, good picture of all of the opportunities. What are the blockers that happen that at the moment which do you think that stop people entering the health service or into a health profession of some form or another? So what's the things? I mean, obviously when you look at doctors, to get a PhD and go through university, you probably end up with £120,000 worth of debt or something.
I think tuition fees are a big blocker. So I mean, you look at sort of when I used to teach the BTEC students that were applying for university sort of 5-6 years ago, they didn't have to worry about that because the NHS paid their tuition fees.
Yeah, through bursaries.
And then obviously that was changed, and it is, we try so hard to say to people, I mean, this was when I used to teach them, but try not to let the debt or the thought of the debt put you off, but it does, and you try to sort of say don't, and that you won't need to pay it back until you earn a certain amount, etc. But I think it is a blocker. And yeah, it was a real shame when that was changed, because we're desperate to train, we're desperate for a workforce, and yet we're making it quite difficult for people to access it. We're expecting them to work, on placements, doing shifts for not even a minimum wage, for no pay. I just think that's a real mistake. Don't want to get political, but It's a mistake in my view.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's a massive barrier. I mean, my eldest daughter's doing her paramedic training at the moment. So, I'm speaking from personal experience as well. She's just doing a night shift, so, finishing 2 hours late, no pay, obviously, and paying to do it. So that there's something a bit wrong there, isn't there? Which is why it's so amazing that we've now got different routes, like we were saying, an apprenticeship route, because it's really needed. Because that has been, I think, a real barrier for people.
So, could you take us through perhaps the apprenticeship, Julie? What kind of apprenticeship? How would somebody enter into an apprenticeship with?
Well, we use apprenticeships at all different levels. So, we've got a lot of our staff that might be doing a master's apprenticeship and getting advanced practice skills and leadership skills and that sort of thing. But for the entry, we advertise our apprenticeship opportunities. So you've got 2 routes in. You can come in and get a normal job, and then you've got the opportunity to do an apprenticeship and train whilst you're working, or you can apply directly for an apprenticeship. 20% of your time when you're an apprentice is off the job. It's the learning and the development. You're doing some work, and you're doing, certainly in the clinical areas or the practical skills, you're doing your practical skills and job, applying those skills in practice. It might take a little longer. So if you were going to university, your course might be 3 years, your apprenticeship might be 4 years, but you're earning at the same time, and you're being trained, and you're working in the environment that you're going to be having a profession in. So it's a real opportunity. I think one of our barriers is the misconception that the qualification that you get is different to the one that you get at university. And your nursing degree, your physiotherapy degree, your operating department practitioner are the same degrees as you would get if you were going full-time to university. Likewise, if it's somebody in human resources or in finance, it's still the same courses that are going to take them through their professional routes. But there's a perception, I think, more from parents than from young people, that it's a lesser qualification. And that's one of the things that we have to get over that barrier. But in terms of attracting people, I think people aspire to careers that they see. So TV programmes, there's been a huge increase in people interested in paramedic with the ambulance programmes and that sort of thing on TV. And they see doctors and they see nurses, but they don't necessarily see all of those other professions behind there. And that's one of our challenges in terms of the careers information. It's hard enough for us to be able to explain all of the different careers. And the challenge for a careers teacher in a school, when they've got all of the other sectors as well, is really, really phenomenal. So it's one of our challenges post-COVID to be able to get back out there and really explore the amazing careers that are within health and care.
And same experience for you. You mentioned the apprenticeships already, and is there any other barriers that you can think of? Aside from the loans, or any other barriers that you perceive?
I think sometimes people just think that they're not good enough or they haven't got the right experience, and I think that I would want to encourage people that any lived experience, any of their life experience is transferable into a healthcare setting. So if you've had some challenges, actually they usually stand you in a really good stead to support others.
Oh right, so that's interesting. So like people are struggling with mental health or something like that. That's that kind of stuff. How would you help somebody through re-entering the workforce then after struggling with something like that?
we would meet with an individual and have a conversation about how we could support them, because we know that actually our mental health improves by being at work. We might sometimes argue that, but most of the time overall our mental health is improved by working in a team, and sometimes it's those first steps. So it's a conversation. It's perhaps looking some of the roles that we do. We have a very introductory role called a care buddy. So that's just an individual who comes and works alongside the ward team. So their responsibility is not in particular clinical care. They're just there to support anybody in a range of just general tasks. And that can be a really useful way for somebody who's maybe struggled to engage with work, or is concerned about holding down a job or coming in every day or getting on with people. It's a really good way of getting back into a healthcare setting or trialling it for the first time. But mental health doesn't have to get in the way. Sometimes I think there is a myth that that your occupational health screening will screen you out. And actually what our occupational health teams will do is try and work with you to enable you to work. So
screen you in almost.
Screen you in, absolutely. So, but the experiences that we've had are all individual to us, and they make us who we are, and that's how we become the person that Tamsin was talking about, that isn't just reliant on a screen telling you go and do this task. You know that person isn't okay, so you know what actions you're going to take.
Yeah, and there's something also beneficial. People who've been through that kind of mental health barrier and have managed recover out of it, they become an advocate for an ambassador for how you can actually, there's life after a bout of a difficult portion of your life.
We actively recruit peer support workers. So within mental health, there are roles that are particularly targeted at people who've had mental health experiences, be that themselves or members of their family. And that also goes across to support workers that help people with breastfeeding difficulties when they've had a baby, or postnatal depression and those areas. So those people with those lived experiences of those difficulties that can help people overcome them within the work that they're doing are really, really important to us.
Wow, that's fascinating. I had no idea. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? How do we get this message out? How do you get it out to the people that you can inspire? And I don't know if we said it here, that you have like the age of 10 really is when you can get inspired towards at least an industry, if not a specific, I've always wanted to be a nurse. Always wanted to be in something healthy, but not a nurse, which is quite interesting. and I fell into it, nursing, which is where we got the spread.
Do it.
It's a good, it's a good spread. But it kind of, part of it's vocational, I suppose. That kind of, there's a natural draw to want to help people, but sometimes you have a life experience which changes your perception, and perhaps actually I do want to help other people that suffer the same thing, which is lovely. But how do we get that out into the schools? How do we get that to the and the parents? I suppose what you were saying is the parents are kind of a blocker. They're saying, "Oh no, you've got to go get your degree. It's all right. You'll only be racking up 35 grand's worth of debt. It's the same qualification, earn money, and actually when you come at it, you'll have 4 years' experience in the job, which is actually quite valuable." Brilliant. Okay. We know health, has struggled especially over the last 2 years. It's been a difficult transition. What's the skill need right now? What do you see in the future of the skills that we're going to need? What kind of skills do you think? Are we going to see a change in the health industry, or is it just that we're going to adapt to more technology or more digital solutions, and therefore the same roles will change? A difficult question, but do you fancy having a crack at it?
I think all of those things that you've said. I think there is the digital technology, there is our ageing population that we need to work differently and use different skills for people who may have a number of long-term conditions that they're managing. I think what I would be looking for in the future is versatility. That's a difficult word to say, but we've talked about all the different professional groups and different job titles, and sort of almost laughed about the number of different roles that there are. But actually, there are some of those roles where we could blur those boundaries a little bit and keep real specialist skills, so enable people to pursue their career goal of becoming specialists in a field, but also keeping a versatility that enables them to just work a little bit beyond that as well. We often hear people will say, I repeat the same story to 3 different people, whereas actually we could have one person or one role that's supporting an individual. So I think we need to see more of that.
Julie, same thought?
Again, I think we've got shortages now on some of our workforce. We've got shortages of nurses, we've got shortages of doctors, and already talked about pharmacists. So as our population increases as the population gets older, we're still going to need those roles. We're going to need different ones as well, and there'll be roles that we've not even thought about that will emerge. And that adaptability and those elements are absolutely critical. But it's an element of people that have got the scientific background that want to come into those science roles, the people that are caring and want to have that face-to-face, but not necessarily a professional role. We need everybody, and we can utilise all of those skills in different ways across the NHS and across care. So there aren't any skills there that we wouldn't be able to utilise.
So you want everybody then, really?
Pretty much.
We want everyone to think about
Have to think about it.
Care. And not be sort of misconceptions or boxed in by what they perceive is the actual roles that are there, because there are vast numbers of different roles.
It is about getting out there, isn't it? And getting the message out and working together, which I think is something we all do really well, but working together to look at what do we need and how can we serve that, really. So it's carrying on doing that.
Obviously we're talking here around NHS predominantly, but there is a large emerging private health professionals as well, and you've got private dentistry and they need to get involved as well, equally so, don't they? Even the small businesses that are running medical services could do with getting involved and explaining, because that could serve the NHS. Obviously, is a key concern to the majority of people in England who can't or don't pay for health services. We killed a lot of myths. We tried to kill a lot of myths in this. Have you got anything else? One thing I wanted to quickly talk on the myth side, and maybe I'll start with you, Tamsin, is on the gender divide. Obviously, we're sitting in a room which is now dominated by the female gender, which is great in the first of the show to do so. Is that demonstrative of the industry that you're in? Is that divide still very evident, or is it changing?
I think it's starting to change. I mean, if we look at, I think we've got 94 students enrolled with us at the moment, and 17% of them are male. So, you're talking nearly a fifth of them, which is, I reckon that's pretty good. So when we look at every cohort, we have, at least 2 or 3 men in each cohort. And, they're working in a real wide range of different, areas. So historically, you might think about sort of A&E, you get the male nurses because it's sort of the exciting, but we've got men working on the paediatric ward, with us doing the nursing associate apprenticeship, which you wouldn't automatically think about a man working with children necessarily. No. So I think it is changing, and certainly we're doing quite a lot of work to promote that as well, getting the students to talk about their journeys in and the fact that it's not an all-female career anymore. There are so many different opportunities, so I think we're getting there. We are obviously still female dominant, but we are getting there, I think, certainly. Okay,
and is that replicated across your experience in your trusts?
So I think we do have a greater proportion of female staff, but one of the things that I think it's important to consider is if you look at medical students and doctors, if you go back 20 years, that profession was mainly male, whereas now it's swung. I think it's about 50-50 at the moment.
Right.
So things are changing. We seek to be an inclusive organisation, so it doesn't matter what your gender. We would welcome you into a role if you want to do it.
Yeah, so accepting the fact that the male-female divide has been the traditional, but there is actually a greater non-binary community now, so that you support those as well. Obviously, you're doing that inclusivity, and inclusivity stretches out obviously to ethnic minorities, and that a bit tricky in Cornwall because it's not a huge community down here. That's great. Any other myths? You know, I'll let you open mic. Any other myths you want to diss and get rid of, and say, I don't want people to think this about the health industry anymore?
I think
Or
it's
have we
just
done
it's
it?
never too late.
It's never too late. Okay, so you
if
can
you
start
want to
at
do
any age.
it, just go for it. You know, talk to people, find out how you can get into it, and it's the most amazing career that anybody could ever wish for.
Absolutely.
I think also if you've got a disability, that is not a barrier. We've got so many different ranges of roles. We have staff that are wheelchair users. We've got a surgeon who is an amputee. Not hands.
Presumably legs, yes.
But, yeah. So,
Yeah, suddenly had a digital health thing going on there, but carry on, sorry.
So yeah, everybody's talents and skills are really important,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't be putting barriers there.
No.
I would say if you're worried or concerned, or you think that you might not be able to do something, talk to us, because you know we can work with individuals to find out what might be the right career for them or the right role for them. But I think the myth that I would want to say is you know that myth, once a nurse always a nurse, or once a doctor always a doctor. Not the case.
Not the case.
You
Okay.
know, so it goes along with never too late. It's also never too late to change.
Yeah, and I think our pre-employment programs also emphasise that. So we've got quite a few programs for people that want to come in, explore what health and care is, identify which areas they want to work in. We help them identify their transferable skills, where they've got talents that they haven't necessarily recognised and can use in health and care, and help them develop their CVs, their applications to take them into the work environment. And as COVID is lifting, some of those will also include work experience opportunities, so they can try out roles as well. So, you know, we're there to talk to help, to try and encourage people to come into health and care.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you, Julie and Helen. A great conversation there, and I feel that we might have just only scratched the corner off the Health Lucky lottery card there of what's underneath the surface. So many thanks. Thanks for joining us to watch the show. So if you are a business person who is struggling to find the right skills, no, that's not really what I'm. If you're looking for a person, or a parent, or somebody of any age who might be interested in thinking that your health might be the route forward, or you might think you could, even if your skills are facing a more practical means like plumbing, or you could change your career into health. I think that's fascinating. I'm kind of almost struggling to comprehend it all. Well done for you working in it on a day-to-day basis. So do, if you are interested in finding out more, go to the Truro and Penwith College website. It's at truro-penwith.ac.uk. Feel free to contact me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Russell Cosway, and I'm labelled a kindness pirate. And mention the free Future Skills Show, and I'll happily connect with you. In the meantime, thank you again, really thank you, and we hope to see you again on another show.